What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of Hard Points. I'm joined with Dom today, who
What's going
is
on, fellas?
just an absolute legend in COD, so he knows a lot of shit.
I don't
So-
know if I'd say all that, but been watching for a while.
Well, today we're going to talk about a bunch of things when it comes to ROSTERMANIA and Optic, and their decisions that we may or may not agree with. So that being said, let's just get into it. ROSTERMANIA as a whole this year is wide open. Like, I've never seen this many players be on the table, and even like we'll get into Scrap. Like, the fact that he's even considered available is insane. And Don, what do you think about that? That he might, like, you think if someone threw him a big enough bag, they would let him go?
Yeah, well, that's definitely interesting. There's only really one roster set, which is NYSL, which makes sense since they won 3 events last year, including champs. But Toronto is really interesting because they have this. They've done this a lot where they find great talent and then I'm not really sure like why they're trying to kind of ship everybody off. I don't know if I think it's like a money thing where they just they really can't keep up with the price of some of these players. But like I think behind the scenes people were saying that they had to fight just to put this roster together this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were gonna blow it up last year. So I think upper management finally just made the decision. But it's really interesting because I don't know exactly what they should do. Like in terms of like they have Scrappy, right? But at this point, if I'm Scrappy and you know that they're getting rid of the other 3 players, I don't know that he's gonna want to rebuild there. I mean, he's coming off of, his rookie year. He was probably a top 3 player in the league, and he won an event. Their team looked really. I mean, they had one bad day. I mean, they had a bad Sunday on champs, but other than that, they were the best team in the game. So it's like, I just don't know. If I'm him, I would kind of feel like they're doing me dirty. Like they should just, honestly, they should ship him off. I feel like because it's what's the point of keeping him? Unless they have some like master plan of like surrounding him with great talent, but there's really not a lot of options. And the other thing is too, like this decision, if Scrappy ends up being unhappy and like they hold him, no superstar is ever gonna want to go play for Toronto.
Exactly.
If that's the case. So they're definitely the most interesting team. Like I wonder what's gonna happen with them, but they might be setting themselves up for failure.
Perfectly put. I couldn't have said it any better. But I saw today that Insight was being looked at by FaZe as a rumor. I'm not sure, but if that did happen, I think he's a perfect player for them. But it's kind of weird because I kind of want them to switch it up a little bit. I know Simp has always been on a sub, but I feel like just something tells me him on a flex role. But either way, I think, to be honest, like realistically, I think it's going to be Abizi and Simp on the subs for FaZe. But if I'm them and I hear this Scrap shit going on, whoo, if they get Scrap, they're not losing. Like,
yeah, it's over.
It's not. It's just crazy that we're even talking about. Like, if you look at this guy's stats, his rookie year, it's unbelievable. He's like, these stats are. He has no flaws at all, and he's number 1 in hardpoint damage, number 2 in control, and honestly, he gets a little bit worse on land, but the stats are still insane. The guy, I don't even know. He's probably gonna be one of the best ARs ever if he keeps up at this pace. So if they actually like, I just can't believe Toronto is doing it. Like you're one, like you said, they got smoked. That one match, the one grand finals. To say something went different, you're like world champs. And I don't understand it. The Hicksy move was brain dead too. But honestly, we could talk about that all day. But let's move on to this is sad, but Optic. You know my thoughts on the Ghosty thing. I think them dropping Ghosties is so dumb. I think the kid showed so much willingness to change and to be a team player, which I haven't seen Dashy. I haven't seen, like, I think Ant's going to be there no matter what, but I'm going to get into Ant later too. But Dashy, he just doesn't win. He doesn't make the right plays on the map. And I think Ghosty was a perfect fit for them because they need a leader. The guy led the league in hill time. And he was always on one rotation. And like we were talking about the other day, in Champs, he's the only one that showed up. His rookie year on the biggest org, changing roles to probably the hardest role, besides probably an entry sub, being an IGL is probably. And considering he never played that role and played it so well at the end of the year, I think they should have kept him. What do you think, Dom?
I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you're saying. It's interesting because you never know with some of these challengers guys. Like, I believe he had one of the highest KDs in challengers, and he was kind of just...
He's dropping 1.2s, I think.
Yeah, he was kind of just going off against everybody. So it's like one of those things where, like, you expect that to be, like, the case when he gets in the league. Like, he's going to be, like, kind of like a more kill-oriented player. But, I mean, he showed that his strength is knowledge of the game. And, you know, whether that's he's putting a lot of time in or whatever, he's very, you know, this is a game where spawns are very inconsistent, and it's tough to be consistent in this type of game. Like, there's previous games where, you know, teams had a really good map, and they were going to be really good at that map the whole year. Like, that's definitely not the case anymore, but he proved that even with an inconsistent game, like, he can consistently know spawns, consistently know what the right play is.
Yep.
So I think Optic definitely fumbled the bag with that one. I don't really know what they're thinking. I think their thought process is that Dashy has been their guy, and they want him to be their guy. And it's not even necessarily like I don't feel like it's all Dashy's fault. Like, I was watching Octane stream earlier, and he was saying that, like, now that he's retired, he's like, I can gas up people. So he was saying that Dashy like changed his play style this year, and he feels like he did a lot better of a job of not like being so kill oriented. So hearing that from Octane is interesting because that's not really the perspective I had. But I don't think it's necessarily Dashy. I think Optic has a team thing where, like, their whole team culture isn't really there. I don't know what it is, if it comes down to one player, like a coach, like what it is, but they just can't. It's like they have no ice. They don't know. Like, they're so good until they're not. And it's just one of those things where, like, as a fan, you kind of just expect it at this point. You just expect them to fail.
Basically.
So I don't know what the right move is. Like, I really don't know what the right move is. But I think between Optic and FaZe, that's really the two orgs that are going to have, like, a domino effect on the rest of the league. Because you mentioned Insight going to FaZe, and I think he's probably on a lot of teams' radar. Like, he might even be on a potential Optic roster. Like, there's definitely, like, there's players who are on multiple rosters, and they're just kind of like, I think once one team, like a FaZe or an Optic, makes like a definitive decision, then the rest of the teams are gonna try to pick up the scraps, which is like, that's kind of why there's teams that you just expect not to be good, because I mean, like a team like Florida or, you know, Las Vegas Legion, they're just going to kind of get the scraps after all the other teams make their decisions. So,
Right. Did you hear what happened with Florida? You hear what they're doing?
are they rebranding, right?
I believe they're becoming the Miami Heretics again, and it's going to be
Yeah.
a full Spanish team, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I kind of like that idea if they're gonna
Yeah, it's
bring
cool.
in like a bunch of new players. Which I think the one guy, I don't know his I don't know if he's Spanish, but there's this guy Abuza. I think, have you heard of him?
No.
His name's Abuza. He's like in Challengers. Apparently, he's like gross, and I don't know if he's one of the players that. No, it looks like he's from Belgium.
Oh.
So maybe he's not going to Miami, but there's been talks of him getting on a team. So it's just like I kind of like when new talent comes in the league, but at the same time it sucks because there's only so many spots, and it's
Yeah.
like, that's kind of one of the things that like was better before the CDL was a thing. Was there was so many teams, like
Yeah.
anything could happen at any given event. And now it's kind of like you kind of know who has a chance to win and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm. It's good. So I like your points on the Dashy thing. It's honestly like, I don't know, man. But to be honest, the biggest thing when you're saying is this. The online KD, the LAN KD is honestly, it's ridiculous. Not one player was even really close to their online KD, and Ghosty was better. But especially Hook was, I can't even, a 1.24 online and a 0.88 on LAN, and a 1.04 to a 0.91. It's not even close. Like, it's not even, the guy was just going to LAN and getting actually pissed on. Like, he wasn't even, like, I know he was just, I don't think Hook played the right role. I don't think he ever was an entry guy. But still, like, jeez. But my biggest thing that I wanted to talk about is Shotzi not being a superstar. And how he's supposed to be the guy and was not the guy this year. Thoughts?
I think it's the same thing I was saying earlier with like Dashy, where like people want to put that blame on Shotzi. Like I know on the flank they were talking a lot about how Shotzi could be that entry fragger,
Right.
or at least this is what Aches was saying. He feels like as a superstar, he has to be that entry fragger,
Right.
and it's like I do think that he could have that role, but at the same time, like a player is who the player is. Like they're not necessarily going to change their whole play style like a guy like Ghosty is. Like Shotzi might just be one of those guys where he just needs someone around him that can work with him.
Mhm.
So I feel like he would benefit from a guy who plays like a Pred or even like an Envoy, because like Envoy, it's tough because they play similar roles, but I think Envoy has that ability to like change. He could be that guy who's an entry fragger. He could be that guy who takes routes. Like Envoy's kind of, I think
agree.
Envoy's underrated in terms of his knowledge of the game and how he approaches it. Like
Mhm.
Shotzi is just disgusting. Like mechanically, his movement and his shot is just insane. So it's one of those things where like I agree that he definitely underperformed,
Mhm.
but I think it's with a game like this, it's so team oriented. Like you don't see there's not a lot of players who can just go crazy unless their team's going crazy. Like
Unless it's
the only
this
person I
guy.
can think of, yeah, Pred.
Unless it's this guy.
Like one example is like even like Awakening. Like you'll see like series where Awakening is going insane, but it doesn't really matter because his team's losing. So it's like I just think another thing the team should consider is how players are on this game. Like because Modern Warfare 3 is most likely going to be pretty similar to
Mm-hmm.
the game the game from this year, Modern Warfare 2. So I think teams should keep that into consideration. Like you might have guys who have been, great for the last 5 years, but they had a bad year this year. Like, I think that should be in the back of teams' heads because, like, if you know a guy was gross at this game,
Yeah.
like, I think that should, or how they played, or it's just important because you kind of know it's going to be a similar game. I mean, we don't know everything, but I'm sure they know more than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just going to be interesting to see because, I thought Optic was going to be, like, gross this year, and they just weren't.
Mm-hmm.
You just never really know. That's another thing.
Yep. But the last thing about Shotzi I want to say is the 1.14 in search to a 0.9 that's bad. But that's the last thing I'm going to say about Optic. As an Optic fan, I'll admit they were all-liners this year, the entire year. It's just how it was. The stats really don't lie. It's not even like it's like a little drop-off. It's big drop-offs. But to get in my next part, I was going to talk about potential Optic options because we know Dashy and Ant are going to be there. And I think, personally, it's between Pred, Envoy, Draza. Those are like the three, and I could see... I don't know about Sib. And I actually put Kleenex on here because I think Kleenex is he's like a Beezy, like a Walmart Beezy, I guess. He's the guy that's he's not gonna put up, like a Beezy's insane. Like he's an entry sub that puts up insane numbers. But Kleenex, I would say probably plays at a top 3 pace in the league. And his KDs aren't very good, but the pressure he puts on, like, the teams on the map, I think it's something that Shotzi could really use because, like, Hook he'd fly, but to be honest, he wouldn't win a lot of gunfights, and either he'd win one gunfight and then he'd chow out when he's weak. Like, Kleenex has a switch where he can chow, get 2, and then play his life. Like, I think Hook just didn't stop. He played faster than I think he could have and should have. But Kleenex, I think, would be a perfect fit. I don't know, but I'm guessing their first option is Draza and Envoy, which I don't really know how to feel about it. I love Envoy, but Draza it's a tough one. I don't really know who's going to switch. Because I guess they'll put Dashy to the main AR role, and they'll put Draza on the flex. But I'm not really sure what they're going to do.
Draza plays really fast. He's not going to be a main.
Yeah.
I just think with that, it would have worked better with Ghosty. Like,
exactly.
If you would have had Envoy, Shotzi, Draza, and Ghosty, I would have liked that roster a lot better because Draza is probably one of the fastest AR. I guess he's a flex, but like he's probably one of the fastest ARs in the league.
Right.
And his S&D game is like disgusting. So I think he would have worked. I mean, you could see his LAN KD compared to his online KD. It's pretty big. It's just another thing I was going to mention, like going a little off topic though, with the LAN to online is like I'm hoping that the pro players can get a grip and not use Sound EQ this year because that's another thing where like some of these stats may look a little like wonky, but it's like a lot of these teams, I'm pretty sure every team ended up running Sound EQ online. Mm-hmm. So it's like, teams getting these bad habits of like maybe who could get away with not being as aware of what's going on the map.
Right.
Because they can kind of just use their sound cues and, you're not going to get caught off guard by somebody hitting a route when you can hear them from half a map away. So
right.
It's like,
exactly.
It's really interesting because without red dots and with sound EQ, it's one of those things where like there's only so many places you can chow and everyone's expecting the gunfight, so it's like it's not fun to watch either. And I don't know why they like there are certain things that pro players just allow to continue to happen that they don't need to. Like sound EQ is one of those things where like the whole league could just all the teams could come to an agreement not to use it, and they would be way better off for it. And, even like snaking, like that's not going to change probably, but
no.
That's a completely like up to the player situation. Where like, I think it's one of those things where like it's just in the heat of the moment. They're not gonna, let's say you're playing for COD champs and there's $1 million on the line.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna snake that head glitch,
Yep.
and they're gonna exploit a stair glitch, or
Yep.
it's just one of those things where like mechanics in the game that are broken that we know developers aren't gonna fix. Pro players should have the accountability and not use these things, but I don't know if that's going to change. That might be too big of an ask, but it's just it's hard to look at some of these stats because the game is so, I mean, ass, to be honest with you. It's just not it was not a good game.
Nope. And you could tell, like, I mean, you can't really defend Optic here. You just can't. You can't say they weren't using it. It's so in plain sight, especially in S&D. Like, it's crazy. Everyone's dropping, besides Ghosty, everyone's dropping at least 0.2. That is a huge drop. Like, it's not like, let's see. Who's an example here? It's not like Scrap, who goes from a 1.13 to 1.06. That's a big, big drop for all of them. And that's another thing that I kind of like, the Envoy and Draza pickups, because they are LAN performers. And to be honest, I don't know if we can obviously tell you Hook isn't. That's an obvious one. But Dashy's won, 2 events? Ant, besides MW 2019, and I guess he was pretty dominant in Cold War too. Besides that, Vanguard, I don't think he was a dominant player. Especially on land, besides the first major. And then this year, his stats are very different. And you think about their team in MW19, they were online. They were dominant online. So, you never know. Like, I think he's used to it by now, but I think there is that element of, they're more comfortable, I guess, and you can utilize these broken things in the game. But all in all, I don't really know how to feel about the roster. I think everyone's waiting on Scrap and Pred. Those are the two, I think. Once those fall, I think everything's going to fall into place. I think those are the two big ones.
Everyone wants Scrap. I mean,
yeah.
It's just like if I'm FaZe, I'm paying whatever it costs to get him because, I mean, at that point we have like a 2017 Warriors situation,
right?
Where the whole league's on notice, and it's like you mentioned, Simp going to a flex, and it's like, I do think Scrap would be the obvious choice.
Yeah.
And I do also think Simp could play a flex, but it's like, unless you're getting a guy like Pred, like I feel like there's only 1 or 2 moves where that makes sense, where like you would have to get a guy like Pred.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like, why even risk making that change? Because you don't know for sure how Simp's gonna adjust to that role change, and it's like you already know for a fact that Simp and aBeZy play well off each other.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those things where like they could do that, but I think there's only one way they do that, which is like if they get Pred, maybe like an Envoy, but I don't really see them going for Envoy. And it's one of the things like, why would you switch up one of the best sub duos the game has ever seen?
No, I agree with that. I agree 100%. But now I'm going to switch over to, I put my ideal team. If I could go back in time, and the rumor team, I guess I'll start with the ideal team. This one is a little weird, but I love Ghosty as a player. I think he's going to be so good. I think he showed everything that you want in a main AR. I really do. He could pull out the sub. The guy was always in the right spots, and that's what you think about Insight on Toronto, and he wouldn't put up any flashy stats or anything, but he would always be in the right spots. He'd always make the right play, which would open up everything for everyone else. And I think he opened up a lot for Scrap, which is what I think Scrap needed, because Scrap was super fast on the map. I think him and Draza were by far the fastest AR this year. Maybe I don't think Sib was that fast this year, but my ideal team was Ghosty, Scrap, Shotzi, and Pred/Kleenex. I could put Envoy there, but I'm just kind of making it interesting. That's the team that I think would work the best. What do you think?
What do you think about putting Envoy in place of Shotzi?
I actually had that. Yeah.
I know this would be crazy, it's basically a whole new team, but that four, if you had Pred in that spot, I feel like would be kind of insane.
Yeah.
Because you have Ghosty, who's basically like a UAV,
Mm-hmm.
and not only that, but he kind of we haven't really seen him switch roles in the league itself, but from knowledge of him, I feel like he could do it. So he can speed up, he can slow down depending on what the team needs. But how consistent Scrap is, and then Envoy is kind of the same way, where he can change the way he plays and just bounce off a Pred. It's just one of those teams where I feel like Shotzi, we're just not really I'm not super confident in him right now. So I feel like that team would be disgusting. Obviously, we know it's not going to happen. They let go of Ghosty. So that's kind of, this is like a dream, and a hypothetical. Mm-hmm. But I would have preferred them to keep Ghosty. And if Dashy goes to another team and he's gross,
oh well,
that's awesome. But I just feel like this team needs somebody that, lights a fire or something. They really. When was the last time they won an event? It was the first event of Vanguard?
Yep.
Right. Yep. Yeah, I mean, and that was one of those obviously all the stars aligned for that event, and that was awesome. But I mean, they're just, it's one of those things where most fans expect disappointment at this point.
Pretty much, yeah. I hate it. After hearing the Hex talk about Ghosty, I just don't agree. He's a 21-year-old kid. He was in college, changed roles, he was probably under the most pressure of a rookie ever, I could argue. Getting put into that lineup on this org, having to change roles, and to adapt to it as quickly as he did, and to make the grand finals your first two majors, I just don't get it. And he's the only one that showed up at Champs. And when he was sick, Major 5, look what the fuck happened. So,
yeah.
I mean, I know, I guess if anyone's sick and not shooting that well, but, I think he changed so much of the team because of how smart he is. I think he might be one of the smartest players ever when he's done, because I don't get it. I don't even know spawns half of it, 90% of the time. I have no idea where they're coming from when we play. Him, they'll get 2 down and he'll tell you where they are. It's not even it's a full squad wipe. He just knows where everyone was coming from, and I think that opened up so much for everybody. Because I don't. We were talking. This sucks, but me and Dom were talking before this video about who we'd put besides Ghosty, and it was going to be Octane because of how good his comms are and his awareness, but obviously he retired literally 15 minutes after we talked about it, so we had to pivot. That was insane. That was so wild. But yeah, the Ghosty one, I think that's going to bite them in the ass. He's going to be so good, and I hope he is, because I don't know, I just really like him as a player, and I think he came in and instantly changed the team, I think. So, I think it's just...
Definitely.
It's bad. The Dashy Draza, whatever. Dashi has to slow down and make the right play. That's the big one. He has to make the right play. There's so many times I'll see Dashi just like, what are you doing, dude? He takes stupid chows, wide chows all the time because he thinks he can just gun everybody. And you had Ghosty as the safety net. And now Jaws is going to be the one that's fast. So Dashi has to understand, I'm going to have to be the Ghosty. I'm going to have to make the right plays. I'm going to have to play slow. I'm going to have to be on rotation. And I don't know if he can do it, but I hope he can. But this rumored team that I just hope, this, please get Pred. I love Envoy, but jeez. Pred, I want to, these stats are actually bananas. He's every single mode. And we talked about last year's S&D was the worst part of his game. The guy had the 21.7 first blood rate. Number 1 S&D KD at a 1.26 as a sub. And he literally took one part of his game that he's bad at and just made it his best part. And I can't even imagine how good he's going to be in a year or two. Because I think he's going to get better than this. Because his team didn't play well. He was doing this on a bad team. And if he goes to a good team, say we were talking about, if he goes to FaZe, him and Sally are going to be putting up 1.3s together. I don't know, man.
You put him on FaZe, and you're matching him up with the other, arguably the best sub player in S&D this year was Abizi. I don't even think there's a debate. I mean, he definitely was.
Yeah.
Abizi was everything this year, and you put a guy like Pred next to him.
Shit.
I don't even know. The possibilities are endless, but
oh man.
I mean, I just think going back to Optic, it's crazy to see how certain people go to other teams and have success. I mean, I wasn't the biggest Envoy fan after Vanguard. Was it Vanguard?
Cold War.
Sorry, Cold War. And then he goes to LAT, and it felt like every time he played us, it was just
yep.
Just people proving that there's something with Optic where they don't unlock people's full potential.
Right.
I mean, Envoy went and won a championship, and then you had Sender, who was our coach, and then he goes to NYSL, and you see the culture he built there. I mean, it's just it's honestly incredible how Optic just seems to be
cursed.
It's something. There's something within the organization that's wrong, because they have such opportunity to get teams like Optic and FaZe are gonna naturally be the most talented teams because of their organizations and
money.
People want to play there. People want to play there, but if I'm a player, I'd rather play on a team like FaZe that has that winning culture, or even NYSL. I mean, I would want to go to NYSL over Optic right now, just because they've proven that they put the work in and that their coaching is there, and it's whatever. I almost think some of the players are uncoachable, because
I agree.
You have a guy like Hydra who literally came here from France, could hardly speak English last year. He's now the IGL on that team,
right?
Making play calls, winning them maps. I mean, he single-handedly wins them events. I mean, it's incredible what he's been able to do, but it's just it kind of goes to show that you have to be willing to learn.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And it's tough because I feel like in this sort of professional esport, a lot of these players are so used to being the best.
Mm-hmm.
Any lobby they're in, no matter what they're doing, they're better than everybody, and they know it. And it's once you get to the league, especially in a game like this, it's not all about talent. You were mentioning Dashi, wide challenging and stuff like that. In this type of game, you can't just outgun somebody.
Exactly.
I mean, we talk about it when we play. It's one of those games where the skill gap is so low.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the game basically aims for you. So it's you could watch a clip of me and think that I'm Dashi,
right,
because of the like obviously I'm not Dash, and his aim is insane. I mean, he probably is one of the most talented. I mean, he's got to be top 3 most talented players in the league.
Probably, yeah.
But it's like it doesn't matter in this game because
Right.
I mean, I could take my little cousin Nikki and she could, you know, the way the aim assist is now, it doesn't matter how talented you are. You're gonna snap onto people.
hmm
So, you know, you could wide chow, but it's not going to work out for you. So it's like, that's why teams like Toronto and NYSL had such success this year because their teamwork was, I mean, the way that NYSL was playing around each other, I mean, they just had a perfect kind of system of just letting Hydra go rogue and everyone else was doing their job. And then, like a Toronto, I mean, you saw how much better their KDs are on land.
hmm
Right, like, and that's because they play fundamentally correct. So it's like, you know, I don't think a single player went. Did any of the players go down? Their KDs are pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, Insights got better. Kleenex drops a little bit. Scrap drops a little
I'm gonna
bit.
have Ixie on here.
But I mean, for the most part, they're pretty consistent. I think it's because they play fundamentally correct and they all play around each other. And it's like, you're never gonna see a team again like Optic in the old days where like they just didn't need to have teamwork because they just ran laps around everybody.
Exactly.
Like, that's not the case anymore. Like everybody is talented enough where it comes down to the team and not an individual player.
Perfectly said. I could not. That is like the thing that I just don't understand how they don't see it, but whatever. I don't know. I guess it'll probably just be the same shit next year with them. But I'm gonna go over dark horse signings for Optic. You're gonna tell me if you agree or not. First one, obvious, Sib.
Sib?
Yeah, he's my first dark horse because if Pred goes, I could see where a world where Sib goes. So, I don't know if Jaws or Nonvoy are package, but I don't know. I think they could sign him.
I also heard that Kleenex and who's the other? Why can't I think of the other guy on Ultra?
Oh, Hixie?
No, not Hixie. Who's still on the Toronto roster? It's Scrap, Insight, and Kleenex.
Yeah.
I think I heard, I could be wrong, but I think I heard that Insight and Kleenex are trying to stay together.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true or not. And I don't see Optic doing this, but it's just interesting. Like, some players do want to stay together.
Right.
I don't know if Sid and Pred have that same
I don't
mindset,
know.
but it might be where, like, Draws and Envoy are trying to stay together. Like, certain players they know they want a team together, so it's interesting. Like, I think that might be what's holding some teams up, where like maybe like FaZe wants Insight, but he doesn't want to leave Kleenex hanging.
Right.
So I do think it's possible. I just don't know because Sib, you have Sib and Dashy, and I kind of think they kind of fall into the same sort of trope. So I don't know how that would work as like an AR pairing.
That's the same thing I'm kind of scared of with Draza if he comes, but either way, I still. I wish they had Ghosty, but it's whatever. Next one I'm going to say I have Standy.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I like Standy. I think he's very kill-oriented, but people underrate how talented he's gross.
Yeah, he is.
I think people sleep on that a little bit, and he didn't work out on Toronto, but he came in and made that Legion team, like, actually stand a chance.
Exactly.
So I think that would actually be really interesting.
I think it could happen, but that's if they strike out on everybody. But I like Standy. I think he could be a very, very good player alongside Jotzi, even though I think he plays a little too slow sometimes, but like you said, I think he plays for kills too much sometimes, but I think he's pretty good. Next one, we already talked about it. I have Insight. I think he would be the Ghosty if they didn't get, like, obviously they're keeping Dash. He would be the IGL, and I think he unlocked Scrap a ton. I think he doesn't get enough credit for letting Scrap go rogue, like letting Scrap take over games, because he'd always be in the right spots, he'd always make the right plays, and I think that's what a lot of teams lack. Like I think Seattle had it, but I don't think Seattle was talented enough. Besides Civ and Pred, I just don't think Mac and Accuracy are top. I don't even think they're good players. Like Mac is either great or he's horrible, and Accuracy is either horrible or okay. So I just don't think
They're
that's
just
enough.
inconsistent.
I don't even know what's gonna happen with them. I think all these orgs, like, I don't even know. Like, I think you're gonna see the craziest. They're just gonna pick up everyone's scraps, and it's just gonna be some weird teams that are formed. I don't know. They might make. There's so much talent though. They might make sense, but I don't know. But Insight, I think, is a real possibility. But if he's trying to like stay with Kleenex, maybe they get Kleenex too. But I didn't put him as a dark horse because I think I could really see that happening because he's a perfect entry sub for Shotzi. But the next one I think would be hilarious, but I have Attach. Same thing. I think
Cool.
Attach would make the right plays, and I think that's what Optic needs. I think he could be the main AR for a good team. Whenever he went back into Minnesota, they think about. I was thinking about. I think we talked about this already. Imagine Minnesota wins one more map against NYSL round one.
Yeah.
They really
folded
punched
that.
him in the face, and I guess I think Attach has that LAN experience. He's very clutch, which Optic isn't. So I think I think Attach is always. I don't think he would come here though. I don't think he would go to Optic. But
I think he would.
You think?
Why wouldn't he?
I don't know. I guess because he shit on us throughout the years. Probably
I
wants to
don't
do a
think
little more.
I don't think he has a ton of options, to be honest with you. I think
Imagine FaZe.
that's actually a good. Yeah, like I don't know where, because there's only so many. Like the thing is, right now is there's only so many spots, and a guy like Attach isn't gonna want to. He's not gonna want to go play for a Legion
Yeah, exactly.
or even like a London. Like he's not gonna want to go there. So like. The only thing is, like, with both Insight and Attach, it just makes me worried about, like, their fit with Dashy. It really comes down to Dashy, like, because if you have Insight, maybe Attach could run the flex, but, like, if you have Insight, you're going to have Dashy as your flex.
Right.
So it's like, it's just one of those things where I'm not sure, like, everyone talks about how disgusting he is, but it's like, when is he going to take that next step and, like, actually be like one of the best players in the league?
Right. I agree with that. Next one, I like this one a lot. I have a Seam. I think he's, like you said, he is passion. He's just willing to do whatever it takes to win. I think he's always been an underrated player. I think he's always been a good player. I think he's always been a serviceable. And I think he showed this year. Like, the fact he was even able to do anything with that London team, him and Nasty were the only ones that could shoot back, honestly. So, and he honestly, he would play pretty good for having that bad a team. And I think he'd be a good fit around. He'd be an entry guy. He'd be the guy that makes the right plays, too.
I agree with that. I like Asim. I also, I don't know that this is a good shout because I doubt they would ever do this, but, what about a guy like Vivid, who is known for... I mean, Vivid has always been one of the fastest subs. This guy flies around the map. I mean, he is not afraid of a gunfight.
True.
And, I'm not really trying to think about his S&D game. I'm not 100% sure how he is in S&D, but the guy flies. I mean, in terms of, if Shotzi isn't going to be that entry guy, he needs somebody to pick up the kills and to be that guy. So I do think that's an interesting one. I don't think they would do it.
Not me either.
It's weird because I don't think he's had great opportunities in the league, but it'd be interesting to see him on a good team.
And that's a very, very, very good point. because when he went to Dallas in Cold War, they went to the finals. Him and Shotzi.
Yeah.
He transformed that team.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really, really good one. But I think we talked about this last night too. I have Capsule as well.
Yeah, I love
he was
Capsule.
Disgusting at the end of the year. He was pissing on everybody, and he's so fast. Guy can pop off at any moment. I can just put another one too. Afro. I'm just naming now just fast entry SMGs to put along Shotzi. I mean, these are super dark horse like at this point, but
I
think they can
don't
sign
see
him.
Afro. Sorry for that, but he's just he's inconsistent to me. Like, he definitely has the talent, but
Yeah.
I don't see that one happening. But
No.
I will say, like, Florida, I don't know what it is. I'm just looking at, like, Florida has so many players that, like, are just so fast. Like, even they dropped, who else did they drop?
Havoc.
Capsule. I'm thinking of Breach. I'm thinking of Nero.
Oh yeah.
I'm just thinking, like, fast subs, but, like, it's just it's hard because there's only one really, like, I feel like Abizi's the only guy who's so good at that. Like, he's just so consistent at just flying at people. And it's like, I feel like teams are scared to probably take a chance on a guy like Vivid because of the inconsistencies. But, like, I just think it's about the team itself. And, like, I don't know that. I think that's the thing with Optic is they've never really had that, like, cohesion as a team.
Right. I agree.
Where, like, I mean, you know, NYSL, I think that's the reason that they caught fire at the end of the year, and same thing with Thieves last year, is they kind of got ahead of the curve in terms of their teamwork. Like,
Yep.
I remember watching Thieves at the end of last year, and it was like poetry in motion. Like, they were like, the way that they would attack teams, it was like all gas, no brakes. They were just trading perfectly to the point where, like, there's literally nothing a team could do to beat them because their trades were so on point. You know, they were baiting perfectly, and it's like, unless they met their match and they like, unless FaZe came out and was playing the same way they were, there was no way they were losing.
Right.
Same thing with NYSL this year.
That's a perfect comparison because, like, nowadays, I think we've been saying this since Cold War, kind of. There's no. It doesn't matter how skilled people are. I mean, obviously, if all the COD pros, you put them next to each other, they're all disgusting. It's not like there's that big of a drop off between. I mean, some of the players in there obviously are way better than others, but it's all teamwork and your strats and how you play together, like you said, and that's why I think this guy is the last guy I have. I think he made Toronto. I think him and Insight were so good at allowing Kleenex and Scrap to play how they wanted to play. And I think that's what Optic didn't. I think Ghosty did that. Shotzi talked about it all the time, how Ghosty coming to the team allowed him to play how he wanted. And he wasn't saying that with just Dashy. And that's what, like we're talking about teamwork and fit. Dashy has never, sure, he probably changed a little bit, but he's never been, I don't know if he's ever made his teammates better. And I think Ghosty changed completely the way they played. And now they don't have him, so.
Yeah, Hicksy's, I mean, I don't know if there's any doubters, but he's definitely solidified his spot in the league. I mean, you would watch Toronto maps and he would have, like, a bad game, but it's like every kill that he got was so important.
Exactly.
He just knows, like, where to be and what routes to take and kind of how to, like, you know, almost play like the spoiler for the other team where, like, you think the other team might win a control round or something and Hicksy just pops, like, the perfect two-piece or, like, they're rotating and he gets, like, a huge kill where you're like, well, whoever wins that gunfight's going to win the rotation, and he comes out on top. It's like, you know, players like that are important because not everybody is gonna have that mechanical movement that like a Shotzi has or like even like a Simp.
Hmm.
So being fundamentally like sound is important, and it's like I just think teams aren't emphasizing that enough. Like I just wonder what goes on in like optics camp where like they're like afraid to change the culture there, but
Hmm.
I mean it's overdue.
It is. It is. It is. But um, basically, that's all I have. So if you had to put all your money on Optics team next year, what do you got?
If I had to put all my money like on what their team's gonna be,
Yup.
well, I'd say Dashi and Shotzi are solidified, so we're gonna
Hmm.
leave them. Even if it's not what I agree with, they're definitely gonna be returning. I mean, they're already re-signed, so um, I would say it's gonna be. This is tough.
I know.
I'm gonna probably have to go with the rumored team that you have there. I know
Yeah.
it's kind of it's an interesting one that we don't really love, but
Hmm.
I think odds are that's what happens. The only way I could see anything different is if they manage to get Pred,
That's yeah.
and then if they do end up getting Pred, then I think they should probably try to get. I don't know that I like Sib in that lineup, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say if I had to put all my money, I'm going with the rumored team that you have there. Um, but I do think it comes down to like teams are waiting to see what happens with Scrap,
Hmm.
and then once that happens, I think a lot of this stuff is going to be public information because teams probably already have their minds made up. They're just kind of waiting for that first
Yep.
move to be made.
I agree. My team. It's 100% going to be Scrap. Scrap, Dashy, Shotzi, and Pred. I don't care what anybody says. Definitely not, actually. I'm lying. I'm going to have to go with the rumor team, too. As much as I don't want to. That seems likely. I don't know where the hell Pred's going, though. Pred's going Optic or Phase. So,
You know what we didn't talk about? You saw Slasher got officially released.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I kind of...
He had a great, like, I think he had a great year.
He did.
What do you think, where do you think he goes?
Mm,
That's
maybe
a tough
back
one,
to
right?
Thieves to play with Kenny or something. Maybe.
You think maybe a LAT reunion?
Maybe. And then they get, imagine Pred goes there.
I wonder, like, there's not really many spots for him. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go.
What about a slasher to Optic?
I
Probably
mean,
not going to happen.
I'd like it because I think he's a leader, but I doubt they would do it.
The thing I'll say about Slasher is he always has teams. I mean, he has the two biggest win streaks for S&D of all time.
Mhm.
I mean, one was that crazy LAG run last year,
That's wild.
and then which was insane. Meanwhile, my laptop sounds like an airplane right now. And then this year with Atlanta, I think they had another. It was like 10 or 11 win streak on S&D. So it's like his S&D is so sound that I mean, if I'm a team, I'd want him for that alone.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yeah, dude.
He was probably their most consistent. Like besides a Beezy, I mean, Sellium was pretty consistent too. But like he was great. I just think he got scapegoated.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, there was some. I think in the beginning of the year he wasn't playing very well, but towards the end in the champs he was dropping bombs. So, he was. I think he was up there with a Beezy for most kills. I think against Seattle or something.
Yeah, he won the maps. I mean, what was the one? There was one at champs. I think it was against Seattle. It was Fortress Hardpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And he literally went on like a 5 streak that won them the game. I mean, It was like it was one of those things where every kill that he needed to get, he was getting. And I just think like teams sometimes like or people in general have the opinion of like you know what you're gonna get from a player, and like people like definitely respect Slasher, but I think they don't give him the respect that he deserves for this year. Like, I think he definitely deserves to be on a good team.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. Do you have anything else you want to say before we're done? Anything else you want to talk about? I think
I
we covered a
mean,
lot.
not particularly. I would just say, it's just tough. Like, obviously, I want to talk about all these things, but it's tough with a game like this. Like, I'm hoping next year some of the staples of Call of Duty are back, like
Yeah.
red dot,
Yeah.
dead silence. I mean, all these things would be huge because like
Yep.
we take it for granted, but it's like those are things that need to be in the game. It's like
Facts.
without these things, it's kind of hard to judge some of these teams because it's one of those games where like we just talked about how great NYSL was at the end of the year and stuff like that, but it's like we don't really know 100% like why teams win in
Right.
games like this. Like you can't point to like like spawn knowledge and stuff like that because it's like it's so inconsistent with this game that like I just hope we get a more competitive game next year.
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't know. I mean, one can hope. To be honest, that's probably not. Probably gonna be the same shit game. Um, they don't have to change it because everyone's gonna buy it anyway. So it's kind of how it is nowadays.
Yeah, I'm just hoping it's Sledgehammer this year, right?
Shit, I don't know. I don't know what it is.
Sledgehammer.
Maybe.
Didn't get that.
Oh.
Could you try again?
What was the last Sledgehammer game that they did? Vanguard?
Yeah, I
I
think.
think Vanguard was the last one, right?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh shit.
But I do know Sledgehammer is a bit better at listening
Mm-hmm.
to the community. So I'm hoping they at least are willing to make some changes. And people are saying it's going to be the same COD, but I do think there's a chance that we get red dots and dead silence, which would make the game 10 times better. So
Yeah, I hope so.
you still there, Mike?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you can't hear
Hello?
me. Oh god. Well, it looks like we lost them. I was gonna end it here anyway. Thanks for watching the first episode of Hardpoints. We'll probably be back once everything starts
Hello?
gelling. Dom, you hear me? No, you can't hear me. Whatever. But we'll probably be back once all the dominoes start to fall. Hopefully
What
soon.
happened?
But thank you again for watching. I'll talk to you guys later.